But looking back at the warehouse job, it was the best decision I ever made to leave. Not because I went and followed my passion as a PT, but because I had the balls, I had the morals to actually leave and walk away from a bad situation that didn't serve me, because I would have grown old and I would have regretted staying there. And it is spending your life, because you don't get it back. So time is the most valuable thing. I would not trade it for money at all. Should you quit your job? I'm going to help you make a decision whether you should quit or not, and show my experience with quitting my full-time employment job to go self-employed, and then why I stopped self-employment to go into full-time sales as well as self-employed after. So I do quite a lot of hours because I do basically 2 jobs. Now first we need to get into the horrible topic of being employed. So the dream that they sell us of being employed is you work for pennies, you retire old, and you don't get to spend any of your money because you've been working all this time. Follow orders, that's what you have to do, you have to fit in. And you have to quit your ambitions. You can't have any ambitions, you can't have any dreams in life, you've just got to work. And you've got to consume. Everyone teaches you to get finance, to do this, to do that, make sure you buy this car, buy this house, and just consume loads without actually giving real value, because employment, you can only do your small job, which means your income is limited and you're never going to have the life that I want for myself, that you probably want for yourself if you're watching this video. And why you want to go self-employed is probably because of freedom. You get a lot more freedom, and I went on holidays as much as I wanted, which was kind of a bad thing because I got addicted to just relaxing. That's why some part of it didn't work, but then I managed to save myself. So I'll show you how I did that. And now just before I quit my full-time job in a digger factory, I'm not going to say which one, everything was hinting change to me because I knew I was ready to leave just because of what happened and all the anxiety that I got. The first thing that started happening was I was getting YouTube videos suggested, should you quit your job? Probably like this one now. And I was just watching these all the way through saying, do I quit, do I not quit? And that was the moment where everything started to tell me to quit basically. But I couldn't because I was worried. I didn't have any savings at all. So I spent 1.5 years saving up just to leave to go into full-time personal training. Now this isn't just going to be a standard should you quit your job video because everyone makes those. They just show you freedom, choices and ease and say this is the future, this is what you should go to. I'm not going to say that. This is completely up to you what you do with your work life. And I need to tell you, no one tells you in these videos about the uncertainty, about the stress and the sacrifice you've got to make if you do want to transition to self-employed or to change your job completely into something that's commission. So I want to show you what happened when I did it, just so you know what's bad about it, what's good about it, and what you can expect if you actually do quit your job. So in 2020, that's how long ago it was now. So I've come a long way and I've got a lot more money than I did back then. So I was broke, basically, living with my mum. I got fired from tons of jobs. I did everything. I did delivery driving for multiple companies. I went in warehouses. They never lasted just because I hated the managers. I was also a drummer. I'm still a drummer, but I just do it downstairs on my electric drum kit. I don't play gigs anymore. I went everywhere. London, Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham. We played gigs everywhere. And it was great. So I tried to book a lot of time off work, but obviously it's hard to do that. So you kind of have to give up some of your things that you want if you want to be full-time employed. And I'd never get addicted to the salary because once you see that every single month come in, that's all you're going to see. That's all you're going to want. And you're going to be too scared to leave to go to something self-employed because it's just not safe in your own head. Whereas actually it is safe because nothing's happened. You're just assuming something bad's going to happen and your mind goes to the worst possible outcome and sticks on that. And that's why I couldn't leave my job. Just because I was like, I've got no savings. And what if I do go into personal training and I just don't make it? And also in 2020, I had a lot of confidence, but was more ego and cockiness. Now I've kind of mellowed out a little bit. Now I've turned 25. But 2020 was one of the best times of my life. And then 2021 is when I got into the job that really hurt me mentally. The main thing was the environment. So the environment plays a huge role and it matters a lot more than you think. And people are your number one influence. So the people that you're around, if they vape, you're going to eventually try their vape and probably get a vape. That's something small, but what if he's broke? You're going to adopt his broke mindset. So the point I'm trying to make is the people that you hang around with, you will literally become the average of them. So if you hang around with people making 1 to 200k a year, you're literally going to be making 1 to 200k a year. And that's what's happened to me. I was around all these high value people and I started making tons of money, went up to 40k, then 50k, and now it's going to go even more than that soon. But in 2021, the job at the digger factory was disgusting. It was steady pay, so every single month you had to wait, and then as soon as it paid, you had to pay all your expenses. And then you basically had nothing left because you meant to pay yourself first, but most people who are on average income don't even think about that just because they just want to spend the money and enjoy it on drink or whatever. You need to make tons of money, you need to make at least 10k a month. Once you're making, say 10k a month, you can actually quit your job because the managers, you don't rely on anyone then. you can leave and you can still provide for yourself easily. And online's the best way to go. I can talk about that in a different video if you want me to tell you how to do it online, because I've made tons of money online, in person, with sales. And I haven't fully decided what this channel's about. I'm just talking about money, my personal experiences with finance, and how to invest that money to actually make a return. But with this job, I never saw daylight. So picture this. In my job, I was driving to work at 5 a.m. It was pitch black. I got to work, you're in a warehouse, you don't see any daylight. For break time, you go into the canteen, eat the food, you come back down, you go again. As soon as you get back home, as soon as you drive home, it's dark. So I never saw daylight. For 1.5 years, I didn't see daylight, except for the weekends when I was sleeping because I was that knackered. I would never recommend doing a basic job for trading your time for money. I would never recommend that, just because you don't feel confident, you don't feel like yourself. You're just doing it for the money and you think that's the only option, but it's not. And also, we were doing useless actions like brushing up the entire outer pitch. We were brushing that up every single day for 7 days straight when we had that problem with Russia. And I said, it's clean, we've tidied it. He says, well, you need to look like you're doing something, so brush up again. And it's just useless action because the pitch is tidy. You just got to pretend that you're doing something. It's all just to impress the managers, basically. What I found out was the employees were wimps and they would never stand up to the managers. And that did have an effect on me after 1.5 years, just because I got so agitated. I ended up punching a wall and it was bruised for 2 weeks instead of punching my manager's face, because it was just such a toxic environment and he was a narcissist and he was a bully. I didn't take it, but that means he hated me even more because I didn't conform. So 1.5 years went and I made 6 grand total that was saved. And that's because I had a few expenses and I paid 2 grand for my personal training course. So that took 2 grand out of the pot. But 6 grand is enough if you want to start your self-employed business. If that's personal training, pretty easy with 6k. Personal training is only a 6-month startup and then you're pretty much off as long as you can talk to clients. But everything self-employed is pretty much communication. As long as you can talk to people and you can convert them and you can influence them, that's how you're going to get money. So along with that 6k, I got depression, I got anxiety, and I looked rough. I'll try to find a photo of how rough I looked. This was the cause of that job, and it was disgusting and I hated myself. So after that, I lost a lot of confidence, and it didn't come back straight away. It took a long time to come back, another, say, year. And when I was at my new job as a personal trainer, I still didn't have the confidence then. I didn't want to speak to my manager because I had a bad relationship with managers, even though he was amazing. He was like one of the best guys I've ever met. But don't forget, your environment matters, and make sure you spend time with people who are bigger and better than you, with more money, more happiness, and just people that are actually enjoying life, doing things they want, and especially people that are working online, because they can help you get your business up and running online. So from the factory job, my escape plan was to have at least 3 to 6 months of savings, which was 6k to me, have one high income skill, which was personal training, with a qualification, meaning I can get £35 to £45 per hour, and also belief, which my girlfriend convinced me to quit. She gave me the courage to quit, and I wouldn't have if she didn't tell me the logic and the pros and cons. She really put it in perspective and helped me leave when I thought, no, I was stuck because of the salary. So it is scary. You need to talk yourself into it. You need to use imagery. You need to really imagine what life's going to be like. Watch videos saying, my new job at this personal training business, or sales, or real estate, or wherever you want to go. And just create the image of the lifestyle you actually want, and then you'll actually go towards that, rather than going towards this imaginary fear that you've got. And then you can give your notice in like I did. And the weird thing is, the manager, the vibe completely changed. No one spoke to me. The communication was gone. There was nothing. There was no verbal abuse. There was no hatred. There was nothing. It was just pure silence, like they've just gone quiet. It was so weird. And I don't really know what that was. That must have been, well, he's going now, so we don't have to give any attention to him. Which was even better for me because I got to chill for the last week or two. And yeah, every day that went by, I was counting it down and I was really excited. So instead of fear, because the fear was false, it went to excitement, it went to calmness and feeling like I'm actually escaping. The escape is just because it was bad. If you're going from a normal job into something that's better, it won't be an escape, it'll just be some nice transition into your life. So it depends what your job is for you now and why you want to quit. So put it in the comments why you want to quit. I want to know your opinions on it and what's the reasoning. And don't forget, if you're living at home, it's going to be a lot easier because you don't have to pay all these bills like we pay now. It's for renting. When I get the mortgage, it's going to be even more bills. Make sure you don't secure yourself into a job that you don't want. If you've got all these debts, like you've got car payments, you've got a mortgage, you've got all this stuff, do all this stuff early or else you'll feel trapped, especially if you have like a kid or something. And if you're still watching, you probably do really want to leave your job and you just see my opinion on it. So you do need to leave. Like I thought to myself, you do need to leave. I knew it inside. You only stay because you feel safe, because of the paycheck. But you don't deserve any bad behaviour from anyone. So I'd literally leave that second if you fit this criteria, especially with the savings, just so you feel safe. That will make you feel safe to quit. And don't forget, freedom doesn't fix you. If you are suffering with any anxiety, like I've had a lot of people that quit that job because of anxiety as well. My girlfriend did. She worked there for 3 months. She broke down in tears one day, and then they said, "Oh, you can have a week off, it's fine, we'll help you mentally," which they were trying to. This was her agency, not the actual company. She goes, "No, I don't want it anymore, I'm quitting." And then she went a couple of weeks without a job until she found somewhere else. So it wasn't just me, it was tons of people that were getting bullied by the managers, and I was the one person that didn't take it, and then that's why they went even harder on me. So yeah, when you do transition into your next job, the anxiety will still be lingering, if you have any. You will not trust anybody, and you will avoid people. So you've got to start relearning how to have better communication, and that's going to help your business to grow and to actually make 10k a month. And now self-employment. This is my pros and cons that I did a long time ago in 2021. So you get freedom to choose when you do. So another thing is control. You get control over what holidays you have, which is the next point. It's good per hour, good pay. If you want to get paid per hour, that's what you do. If you want to get paid for the value, that's even better, because you can charge $4,000 for a result of, saying, losing 4 stone. You just made $4,000 instantly, and they're with you for 6 months. You're going to help them lose 4 stone. Another thing is uncapped. So even if you don't want to go self-employed, if you want to go into sales like I've just done, it's uncapped commission. So you can make as much as you want, as long as the demand's there. With self-employed, same thing. As long as the demand's there, you can make a lot of money. I know a lot of PTs left because it's a hard business to get into, and I was one of the only ones there. So they all came to me, they all came to the other lad as well. And then when it gets a bit more saturated, then it kind of levels up. So it's very unpredictable. And the next pro is the environment. I train a lot at the gym. So if I'm a personal trainer, I'm going to be training there even more because I'm just in the environment. And it feels good to be where you like to be, because I didn't belong in a digger factory. I belonged in a gym where I could show off and lift tons of weights. Deadlifting 190, benching 110, 120. Can't remember what I did. Calisthenics, I do plank shoes, muscle ups, everything that feels great to me. So being in that environment is actually boosting my vibe up. So that means all my clients went with me because my vibe was good. And you're actually helping people. If you're helping people in this new job that you want, that's another reason to quit, because it just feels great and you have an actual purpose where I'm helping these clients not just lose 4 stone, but the doctors never come back to them saying you've got high cholesterol or you've got this many weeks to live or whatever the situation is. I'm helping them with a huge result, and I'm the only factor that's helping them. And that's why you get paid a lot more money, because the value is there. So money has nothing to do with time, it's all to do with value. But the bad things about self-employment, if you do want to go there, is inconsistent pay. Some months it was low, and that's the 3rd year that I did. September to November was low. So I ended up quitting and going full-time into sales, car sales, and I sell a lot of cars, and I've made a lot of money. I'm making $5,000 months. And then guess what? I go straight to personal training after a different gym that doesn't charge me rent. It charged me £5 per client per session. But most people don't want that work volume of 9 to 12 hours a day, every single day, basically. I have 1 day off a week, and then I still go to the gym for 2 hours training my clients, plus an hour myself. But it just depends how hungry you are. I'm hungry for money. I'm 25. I love my clients. I want them to stick with me for a long time. I'm helping them change their entire body and their confidence. It's the confidence that really matters. Another downside of self-employment is the rent. If you do personal training, you've got to pay about 640 quid a month for rent. Or what I did was work 12 hours a week for free, which is even more of a ball ache. It was horrible, because you've got to do classes and you've got to do cleaning. And I'm not a cleaner, I'm a personal trainer. So me just cleaning all the treadmills just felt like a disservice to myself. Another thing is pressure, because you've got to be the worker who actually does the PT sessions. You've got to be the manager of your own business and doing all your tax returns, which I did myself. I never paid anyone to do that. You've got to be the salesman, which is selling to people when they say, I want personal training, but will you do me a discount? You need to know how to handle that. And to be a marketer. So you've got to market your businesses online. Can you do Facebook ads? Can you do it in person? Can you have massive posters? You know what words to say. It's called copy. And that's the words that sell, that actually get the result into someone making a call to action. And you've got to ask yourself as well, do you want freedom or do you want financial freedom? Because financial freedom, you'll be working for 5 years to get your business huge, up and running, people working for you, you've got your own employees. Whereas freedom is what I had as a personal trainer, because all morning, all midday I was off, and then I went to work at night, and I did 4 to 7 hours at night, and that was it. and then I just went home. I was eating a load of food because I was bulking up. I was spending all the time at home, researching, doing fitness plans, speaking to customers online on this massive group chat that I had. But that was freedom, not financial freedom, because I wasn't well off. I wasn't making over £2,000 a month. It was just basic pay. It was just boring. Whereas now it's good pay, so I can actually invest it into everywhere. The stock market, ISAs, leases, high interest savings account, another ISA that I'm in. Like, I'm in tons of stuff that's giving me a high return. And I can put 20 grand a year just in those things, just because I'm making 20 grand surplus, sometimes 30 grand surplus, depending how the projections go and if I buy this motorbike or not. So why did I quit PT and go straight into sales plus personal training on the side? Well, I wanted PT on the side because it's still my passion and it's still something I love to do. And the OTE, which is on target earnings, was 50k plus just for the sales job. So personal training after that would mean my income was very high, especially for a rented house, which is I'm paying 350 quid a month. So I can save a lot of my money. As I'm 25, this will be going into a lot of things like this: my mortgage and my pension, saving aggressively, investing aggressively. But don't forget, you've still got to make sacrifices if you want to do this. The other job, because I had no money when I was doing personal training on the last month of like November. So when the guy in the car sales said, right, I want you, when do you want to start? I went, well, now. He goes, don't you have to do personal training? I went, I'll do both, it's fine. Personal training I'll do after 6 p.m. I'll work 9 till 6 and then 6 till 10. And I did that for an entire month, and I did 73 hours a week for a month, and they couldn't even believe it. So they saw me in a different light because they saw how committed I was to it. And I still do it now. I do 3 hours after work, which is 9 hours at work, 3 hours at the gym. So you have got to make sacrifices. You've got to be tired sometimes. And the unexpected twist that I didn't think would happen, because I was going for sales for the money, not just for the passion, because I thought it was going to be boring, just paperwork. Actually, one decision equaled great colleagues, great managers, a great time. I was learning a lot of things. I was selling. I was learning how someone's mind works on how they buy something. And it's not about selling, it's how they want to buy something from you and how you can help them with that. And that's what you've got to learn, because you don't even sell as a salesman anymore. You can't, just because you'll get in jail. That one decision as well also allowed me to invest a lot of money in the stock market this year. Tons more than I did last year. I saved just a couple £1,000 last year. 1,300 I saved actually last year. And now I'm on target for around 20k just this year. And it also increased my belief about myself, about what I'm selling, about I can sell anything now. So sometimes the problem isn't the employment, because employment is fun in this job. It is where you're employed. So make sure you have really nice people around you. The managers, make sure no one's toxic, no one's spreading rumours. You just want a happy environment. And this is another thing to think about. If you do want to go self-employed, don't just think about your passion. You've got to think about something very important, or else you might mess this entire thing up. Passion over money is not always the best thing, because you've got to have the skills, which is personal training qualification in my example. I need to know exactly how to train people correctly, safely, and that gives results, and that lets them see results, because even if they lose weight, sometimes they don't even notice and they lose motivation. So you've got to know that. You've got to have people skills. You've also got to have the opportunity. For this sales job, my sister works there, and she got me in touch with someone who knows the boss, and they were all talking. They said, you should hire Brandon. I came in for that day and he offered me the job on the spot, which they never do. They say, you can go home. I just said, I made 114 grand in 3 months in my windows and doors sales, which I also did. And he went, wow, good numbers that is. And then I bought my notepad, I was prepared, asked so many questions, and they just loved my vibe, basically. So you've got to have the opportunity, along with the communication skills, and you've got to have the demand. Because if you start in a car sales business and you're in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to make any sales. If it's quiet and you want to start in middle of the year, no one's going to buy cars, because everyone buys them January till now. Now they've kind of stopped, it's slowing down a little bit. You've got to time it right, you've got to know when to come in. And skills plus opportunity plus demand equals money. And then the money gives you options. This is the important thing. The options gives you freedom, and that's due to the money. And then you have time for your passion, because you've got all this freedom, because you've got all the money, you've got all the options, and now you can say, I don't want to work for you anymore, I want to go part-time, and my stock market is making me 10 grand a year. Let's say if you got just over 100 grand in there, so save 20 grand for 5 years, 100 grand, you're making 10 grand a year. You say, I just want to go part-time now. You work part-time, you get 10 grand a year, and you're sorted. You're making a lot of money. If you want to take that money out each year, as long as the market's on a high and you have enough savings if it's not, you can do that. So I could literally retire in 10 years and have 200 grand in the bank, making me 20 grand a year, plus doing a part-time job. And I'm literally 35 years old. I'll be 35, and I would have tons of money. So it depends where you put your money. If you want a 10% return, I recommend the S&P 500, all world high, FTSE all world. And another thing to think about is to not lose yourself in the process. With my first job in the warehouse, I lost myself completely and I was just feeling rubbish. When I went to personal training, I just gained it all back. I felt amazing, and everyone could see after a few months of, feeling myself again, they could see who I was, and they loved it because I'm bubbly. That's just who I am. Don't lose yourself. You can't pretend to be someone else for too long. It just won't work. You'll feel bad inside and nothing will go right. So be yourself. Don't lose yourself. And this leads me to my final point, which I'll make a new board for in a second, which is, should you quit? You should quit if you have 3 to 6 months of expenses, like I talked about. If you have a solid plan, so it's not just I want to quit, I hate this manager, which is another point. If it's a higher income, because that's what you're working towards as well. If it's tested, so personal training, is it tested in that gym that you want to work at? If not, maybe you don't risk it, because if you're going to start a business and it's not been tested, you've not said if someone wants this product or service, you're just kind of betting on nothing, and no one's going to give you a bank loan if you need one to set up your own business. If you're prepared for uncertainty, so like I said with the savings, with the plan, if the plan fails, have you got something else to do? Some people say you shouldn't have a plan B, but I say have a plan B and C, just because you need to know what you're doing, and that gives you confidence to actually go into plan A. And do not quit your job. Please do not quit. If you have emotional attachment to your paycheck, which everyone will, but if it's very attached, that means your savings or your plan's not very much there yet, and you've not developed what you're going to work on. You need to know what you're going into. Don't quit if you're running away from something, like your managers, instead of running towards something. You need to be running towards a dream, and that's how you're going to end up in the place you want. Because if you're running away, you're going to end up in the same scenario. It always happens. Same thing with dating. They say if you dump your girlfriend and you've not changed personality, you're just going to attract someone that's exactly like your old girlfriend because you haven't changed. So you're just going to attract that persona. That's exactly what it is. That's like law of attraction, but logically. Same thing with work, same thing with your friends. Everything is aligned with you running towards a dream or you're running away from something. You need to understand what you want, you need to have a vision, you need to imagine, you need to actually go for it. And don't quit if you've got no savings or no strategy. So the future for you and I is to save aggressively, to invest, and to actually make online income through anything like YouTube, courses, affiliate marketing, drop shipping, anything online that you think you can monetize and make multiple income streams, because then you don't rely on your time, because you have all these things working in the background to make you thousands of pounds. And that's what's happened to me with my other YouTube channel, and I made my first 500 quid on one of the videos. But the message in all this is not to just follow your passion, it's to have enough money that grows faster than you put in, so that you can have financial freedom in 10 years, because it's a 10-year window. And that allows you to choose how you want to spend your life, and it is spending your life, because you don't get it back. So time is the most valuable thing. I would not trade it for money at all. Don't rush to quit your job, because logically, what does it require? You need to know all these things, you need to prepare for the outcome that you're going to get. And I want to ask you as well, what are you being drawn to and why? Just write it down in the comments. What's the thing that you actually want to go into? Where are you currently? Just give a little brief thing, and I want to see what the results are. But looking back at the warehouse job, it was the best decision I ever made to leave. Not because I went and followed my passion as a PT, but because I had the balls, I had the morals to actually leave and walk away from a bad situation that didn't serve me, that didn't help me, because I would have grown old and I would have regretted staying there. I know some of the colleagues that used to work there, and they are still there 5 years later, just dealing with the stuff that they don't want to deal with, and they're looking a mess. So I've made a conscious choice to change my path, and I've changed it again obviously because I went into sales, and it's just going to keep adapting. So take responsibility for your future, keep adapting, and if I stayed I would have been miserable. If I left and blindly followed my passion, I would have been broke. So it's not about passion or security of money, it's actually about opportunity, it's about living your life, it's about growing, and it's about making mistakes, which you always will. You just need to get over them and go towards something that you love. So as long as you're doing that, you should be fine whether you quit or you stay. Thanks for watching.